Perfect!
Searching for devotion.
Hello, my name is Parra Ramos.
And my name is Marcelo Sosa.
And welcome to Euro Show.
Because it's your show.
Today we'll talk about Europe in the 19th century.
And its development of the democracy.
And the capitalist system. We continue.
Okay, we continue.
Now we'll go with Megan for its economy.
In the 19th century, most of the countries in Europe had amazing transformations. Did you know that? Okay, well. Whole industries emerged as innovations in electricity, chemistry, metallurgy, management, and related engineering fields. The downside of this whole success that they had little children working for the big industries. For example, the cotton industries, where small and delicate hands were needed for the job, so they hired little children under the age of 13. After many years, they created the Factory Act that forbade any factory for admitting working children under the age of 16.
Now we go with society, culture, and religion. The church was part of the establishment and it was a pillar of society such as the army and government. So the Catholic community, for lack of a better word, was a more homogeneous entity, but it was influenced by such factors as class, gender, region, even with cultural and class barriers. The ones who were born with more privileges were those who later took an important place in the church. People lived in isolation for each other, but the church always tried to make them think that their lives were not just about the field. But thanks to industrialization, crusading ideology, and liberal capitalists, people's thinkings started to change totally. The above impacted the balance of European power, starting a new social class of industrial capitalism whose power was based on wealth, not on their inherited states. The improvement in communication and transport led people to relate better among each other and even among the communities. Industrialization also made millions of people to go from the field life to the booming cities. Also, industrialization made workers to make movements which were against the establishment, thanks to the poverty, disease, and dying housing. The Christianization spread across Europe. Huge numbers of rural people in some places simply stopped attending to church, making the same beginning to fade from its place at the heart of communal religious and social life. The French and Industrial Revolutions, even though they started in the 18th century, were the ones that led all the kinds of changes in culture of Europe, starting movements such as liberalism, nationalism, socialism, communism, feminism, and photo-fascism, bringing political upheavals and revolutions.
We'll come back after this break. Hello, introducing the new How to Imperialism.
For only $19.99, you can get this book written by the one and only Stanley, the guy who got the Congo for King Leopold of Belgium. Now a quick preview of the content. First, do you have your country?
Yes!
Second, are you exploiting all the people there for their resources?
Yes!
Third, repeat step 2 until the people get tired of you and start making revolutions all over the place.
Yes!
And now we're going with politics and government.
In the 19th century, it was a difficult stage for the government and politics because of the amount of ideals that people had.
For example, in the 1848 revolution in France, the liberals wanted to establish a republic and the conservatives thought that Louis was not legitimate and that the Bourbons should be reinstalled. In that revolution, there were 4 main parties.
The liberals, who wanted the separation between church and state, economic freedom for the government and civil liberties. The nationalists, who want national unity based on a language, culture, religion, and history that people share.
Then there were the radicals, that were separated into groups, the Democrats and the Socialists. The Democrats wanted the universal male suffrage, and the Socialists wanted worker ownership of the means of production.
After the revolution, they had elections which allow for democracy to exist.
One of the most important people is Otto von Bismarck in Germany, who was a conservative person, but let each political party have their way in something. For example, he let the Socialists have the social welfare program.
Talking about the 19th century, we can notice a lot of conflicts going on in Europe. We can also select the two major ones, and those are the revolutions that happened in 1848 and imperialism. Now, in the first case, these revolutions caused a domino effect not only in Europe but in other continents, like Asia or Africa. Nonetheless, it can all be traced back to the first one, the Second French Revolution. The French Revolution started because of the citizens' discomfort with the constitutional monarch Louis Philippe, also known as the Citizen King, because they didn't believe he was legitimate, unlike the Bourbon family. However, it all blew up when the Liberal Party started the Republican banquet. The government obviously wasn't happy about this, so they called them off, considering them as an act of treason. This caused so many revolts, the king was forced to retire. In the meantime, a provisional government appeared. However, it was very dysfunctional since divided conservative and Republican revolutionaries couldn't get to an agreement on how to manage the country. From the 1848 elections, Louis Napoleon III won, and he was good at the beginning. But like his relative Napoleon, he showed his true colors over time and became a dictator from 1852 till 1870, after the Franco-Prussian War, which leads us to the next connection, the unification of Germany, which in summary was the association of around 39 states in what we know now as the German Confederation. Now, all of this was possible thanks to Otto von Bismarck, who was some kind of politics genius who managed to alter the whole balance of power in Europe. He created this war to unite all the different parties for a common cause. These revolutions also motivated the Italians to start their own unification. But now to the important. We'll discuss imperialism, which is a policy of extending the rule of an empire over foreign countries, or of acquiring dependencies in order to expand, modernize, and industrialize your own nation. This is a crucial historical event. Because of it, the modern world started to take shape. We saw this in China, in India, and also in Africa, which we'll be focused on. The scramble for this country started in 1875, and involved the biggest powers of the world, mainly all of them from Europe, to go to what they called the Dark Continent, when they had the scientific and technological advances to conquer them. After some serious cost over who got to keep what, Bismarck, the guy we talked about earlier, called the Berlin Conference of 1884, where 14 European nations and not one African were called to divide the land. This caused a lot of unsolved and unpunished crimes against humanity, discrimination, and more issues we see nowadays, like the crisis of the Congo. This social Darwinism the British and many more created made them think they were the fittest to take charge of what they called the barbarians, giving themselves the right to treat them like slaves or even worse.
In conclusion, at the end of the 19th century, Europe was industrialized, very complex and divided because of many revolutions that caused the domino effect in other continents. The French and Industrial Revolutions, even though they started in the 18th century, were the ones that led to all these kind of changes in culture, starting movements such as liberalism, nationalism, socialism, feminism, and many others, bringing political changes.
That was it for today's Euro Show, because it is Euro Show. Thank you!